Hello and welcome to my place, Dr. Jackie. This video, I'm going to talk about one of the harder things of my memories, ritual abuse. And because I still, even to this day, after all these years, as I look at the pages that I've written, the experiences that I've had, it still is hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the chapter of my book on, it's part 3, Ritual Abuse. Where do I go from here? My first discovery of ritual abuse came in the company of my friends and family. We had just finished dinner and were going to watch a movie. I went to get the movies and could not find them. And suddenly I got very upset, way more upset than you would for just can't find a movie. I began to cry and say how they always take things away from us. They give me things and then they take them away and they won't let me keep them. My friends and family tried to calm me down, but it wasn't working. My friend's husband finally said he would go to the store and to pacify me and get the movies. My girlfriend took me into the other room, and because I was talking about washing the blood off my hands and kept repeating how they kept taking everything away from us. So she also wanted to spare my children as they were a little bit scared about what was going on. She got me some paper and crayons, which is one of the paper writing was one of the ways that I worked through most of my memories. So I began to draw crosses and blood coming from them. Picture after picture, I drew crosses and talked about how they kept taking things away from us. I kept wanting to wash my hands because there was so much blood on them. I could see that clearly. It took a while to come back to myself, at which time I saw all the crosses I drew, and I was amazed at the sick feeling I had left from that experience. This was the beginning of my strange experiences and memories. A few months after the incident, and several others were scared, and several others which scared the children, we made the decision to have the younger children live with my husband and the stepmom, and two of the older ones were old enough to live on their own. I felt like I was too unstable and I did not want to continue exposing my children to what I was experiencing. I did not understand what was happening to me, and I was very scared. I needed to talk. I needed time to work through these experiences without worry about harming my children. At the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. From this time forward, I lived by myself most of the time, which turned out to be a good idea because of the self-abuse, cutting, and taking pills. Sometimes I lived with my friend and her family, which brought some of its own problems. Many of the ritual abuse memories were shared in drawings because that seemed to be a safer way to tell. The drawings were very graphic, and I didn't want whoever I married to know about my past life, which is certainly a foolish idea. But I did very ritualistically burn my pictures as if that would somehow make the experiences not true. I would not have to let my new relationship, when it happened, know anything about my past life. In the process of gathering my journals for my books, I did find some pictures that did not get destroyed. The pictures were very graphic and of the abuse and are in my other book, The Daily Journal of a Multiple. Ritual abuse memories are very strange and unbelievable. This is the purpose, so no one would believe the bizarre things that happened to them. One of the things that came out of the memories I have of how they always took things away from us was the memory where they gave me a baby to take care of. The baby was crying and I could not make it stop. So they took the baby away and told me that I did not do it right because I didn't get the baby to stop crying. But they did not give me anything to feed the baby. So how could I have taken care of the baby properly? From this experience, I realized why I could not be in the same room with a crying baby. It would really bother me, and I never knew why until this memory. This experience also created a feeling of helplessness, of not being good enough, which I have had to overcome through much work in my life in the many years. There is no reality to draw upon when seeing these things happen. At the time, I did not realize that much of what was told to me was not true, and the things which they had me do were impossible to accomplish. There was great abuse within the ritual memories. Much of the abuse was to children. One of the reasons I believe I survived was the fact that I had a family and some of the other children did not, or we did not know of their family. I also believe God played an important part in keeping me safe. Some may think that does not make sense, that I survived all my experiences and still am able to function today. To me, that indicates the help of a greater power than myself. I did experience great anger at God for letting all these things happen to me. I figured that God should be able to stop the people who were doing what they were doing to me and others. Logically, I know that God cannot step in and stop these things bad people are doing to good and innocent people. But when you are angry, you are not logical. I believe God expects us to go through this step as part of the healing process, that of being angry at Him. When coming to the understanding spiritually, emotionally, that God cannot stop others from making bad choices, and because of free agency, I was able to forgive my abusers, which I will discuss more fully in another chapter. But that was not easy either. That was a process. As I was preparing the papers for my book, I found a post-it note I had written. It said, "Once I prayed to God that multiple personality to take multiple personality away from me. I could not take any more memories or cope with my life. My answer came very clear to me. When the work is done, you will be whole." This helped me to keep going, but many days it was not an easy task. Two of the hardest ritual abuse memories was the memories of the babies being hurt. In one of the memories, I had been told that I had a baby. They put things inside of me that made it look like I was pregnant. And then later, they took the things out and they gave me a baby and told me it was mine. Told me to take care of it, which I could not do because I could not feed it. I could not do anything. And then in a ritual experience, they killed the baby. And they told me it was my fault. Part of the memories, cult memories, is scaring you, is trying to convince you that things happened when they didn't happen, and to make sure that you don't tell. They tell you all kinds of things about hurting family, pets, whatever they throw at you. And it also is so that you don't believe it. When you have the memory come forth, you don't believe it because it's too bizarre. At the time, we remembered the fear of someone from the cult having put something kind of tracking device inside of us, so they would know when we told. And that was a whole nother process of working through that. Ritual memories brought many children coming forth with fears and anger and memories of horrible experiences. I had so much difficulty with these memories because they sounded so unbelievable. As I was preparing this book, I reread the pages of my journal. I was left with the strangest feelings, unbelief that we went through all of these things, sadness that anyone should have to live through those experiences, anger that there are people who would put children through such horrible, inhumane experiences. And yes, it would be easy for me to say, no, this never happened to me. And it's just all in my imagination. But I have too many journals, too many writings about these experiences. And I remember how hard it was for the altars carrying these experiences to share them, that there was a real fear in sharing them. There were writings about cult baptism, baptizing us to Satan, memories of seeing a face with horns and dark hooded men and women standing around a marble table. We had been forced to watch cult ceremonies and participate in some. The warnings about talking and telling what happened were embedded so deeply. When the memories came up, it took time to convince the altars they were safe and could tell their experiences. We had to help them understand that they were in a different time and place from the abuse. We worked through some of these memories in therapy, and many of them we had to deal with at home as they came up. Therapy was a safe place in which most of the personalities knew we could talk about anything. Sometimes, when the more difficult memory would appear at home, we would sleep and keep everyone quiet until we got back to therapy. That's why it's so important that you have a good therapist. And if you have to fire some therapists to get to where you need to be, you need to make sure that therapist is there for you and helping you. I do not want to dwell on the memories in this on the memories in this book, only to acknowledge that the memories were the worst of all the experiences. These memories were all challenging because no one could really confirm my absence from this camp. And the other times of continued cult reinforcement, these memories were part of the lasting fear and anger that were suppressed and took so long to reach a point where they could be uncovered. Once the first memory came, it opened a floodgates, and we learned so much about this part of our life. Coping with the memories was not easy. There were children to comfort, adults to overcome the guilt for not being able to stop the abuse. We had to give new meaning and understanding to what happened and realize it was not our fault, that we could not have done anything to change it. We were just children. The goal was to work through old patterns and beliefs, discovering the patterns and beliefs that had been programmed by the cult gave us answers to why unwanted things kept happening in our life. Once we knew what we were fighting, we could begin to change the patterns and help the altars to be free of the secrets. Integration is a very fascinating journey, one I am glad I took the time to venture down. The personalities that experienced the ritual abuse, the cult abuse, had no other view of the world except the rituals. It was challenging to bring them into the present and help them feel safe. But with a lot of time and patience, we did it. The cult personalities did not know of God or of our church. They only knew what the cult taught them. This became the challenge as we tried to teach them and get them to come to church and to learn a different way. It is difficult to change patterns or beliefs of what was planted in fear. However, making these changes were an important part of the healing process and becoming whole. I know that if I can do this, so can you. If you are struggling with cult abuse, know that all of the memories that come forth are going to feel very bizarre and mostly unwanted because you don't want to believe that you had to go through these things. So you just comfort the altars that hold these memories, help them to understand that they're safe in a good place, and that they can now let go, that nobody is going to stop them from. And you will find within the system, sometimes other altars were there to make sure that we didn't tell. So we had an altar that was kind of in charge of that. So we had to help them understand that they didn't have to do that job anymore, that they didn't have to stop the memories, that they were okay. So There were so many levels of protection that needed to be taken care of while working with this ritual abuse memories. But I know it's important to go through. I know that it was a part of my life that had I not understood it, there would be things still going on today that I didn't understand why I do things. I pray for your help, and may you, through your higher power or God, help you get through the challenges that come through dealing with cult and ritual abuse. I know you can do it. I know that I was grateful for the help that the Savior gives me and the strength to get through all of what I went through and to realize that I am a good person, and all the false things that the cults taught were exactly that, false and scary, and they don't have to run your life. And so hang in there, don't give up. Goodness and light is coming as you continue to work through the dreams and the memories and all the things that challenge you at this time. Take good care. Bye bye.